The notion that the satellites of the Earth are masses of matter, which originated with Aristotle in the 3rd century BC, has to be abandoned. There are no solid bodies traveling in space, and the use in the vocabulary of the word planet, which has this erroneous meaning, is no longer justified. It could further be said concerning the true composition of the satellites of the Earth, that it might have been discovered before today that the latter are not masses of matter, in view of the fact that they are able to remain at a standstill for several days, during the pause which follows their retrogradation, irrespective of whether they are held to revolve around the Earth or the Sun. It is obvious that during this time, the supposed compensating forces which are said to result from the movements of the planets, and thereby hold them in space, would cease to operate due to the absence of motion. The only physical law to which the planets would then be subjected would be that of gravity, and, under the circumstances, they would normally be precipitated on Earth, or on the Sun as the case may be. The fact that the satellites are able to remain suspended in space for days during the stationary period which follows retrogradation indicates that they are not masses of matter, and that they can only be luminous manifestations, which fact is compatible with the impressive silence ruling in the heavens. It was recognized from the earliest times that the satellites of the Earth, particularly the Sun and the Moon, were not solid opaque bodies. They were first, until Aristotle, considered to be souls or spirits, which does not imply a physical nature. To the ancients, they were simply lights, and they gave the Sun and the Moon a very apt name. They called them luminaries. Xenophanes in the 6th century BC thought that the Sun was an accumulation of sparks resulting from the influence of the Earth. Several other physicists believed that it was a vitreous body, or a lens, reflecting the light of the ether, and this theory, which is based on observation, is logical, considering that the metallic nature of the surface of the dome of the sky was probably unknown at that time. As for the Moon, it is said that ages ago, long before the beginning of the Christian era, the Babylonian astronomer priests were teaching in their temples that it was a reflection of the Earth. This supposition of reflection is exact, but that of the origin of the reflection is not, for the lunar disk, which is as perfectly circular as possible. It cannot be a reflection of the Earth, since the Earth is not round. Copernicus was the first to assign this shape to the Earth in order to support the rotation. It should, moreover, be borne in mind that the circular shape which the Earth appears to affect is merely due to the convexity of the dome of the sky, which bounds the horizon. The ancients have always said that the Earth is flat, and this is confirmed by the photographic records of a large number of airmen, and also by the declaration of Professor Picard, when he ascended into the stratosphere. Since concrete notions have now been obtained concerning the existence of a circular vault round the Earth, it logically follows that the latter is a plane surface, apart, of course, from the irregularities of the mountains, which fills with the oceans the lower part of the cavity in which it is situated. The polar regions would, therefore, lie flat and extend to the base of some of the circular walls surrounding the Earth. It would thus appear that the satellite disks are not reflections of the Earth like the Babylonians believed in the case of the Moon, since the Earth is not round. They are either direct projections emanating from luminous centers, or reflections on the vault of the sky of primary luminous projections. It has been, in fact, said by the ancients, speaking of the Sun, that it is only a reflection of a much greater and more powerful Sun existing in an exterior universe. If either of these two alternatives is correct, the great difficulty, however, which still remains to be solved in a satisfactory manner, is the motion itself of the satellites. Now, in the course of research on light, the author has come across certain experiments carried out in the last century by French physicist Lissajous, whereby a spot of light reflected on a screen is made to move, simply by imparting a vibration to the surface from which this spot of light is reflected, and the experiments in question seem to supply the mechanism of the motion, including even retrogradation, of reflected luminous projections on the vault of heaven corresponding to the disks. In these demonstrations, rays of light are allowed to fall on a mirror fixed to one branch of a tuning fork. The spot of light thus obtained is reflected from the mirror onto a second one similarly attached to another tuning fork, and from there again reflected on a screen. The screen in this comparison corresponds to the vault of the sky, and the spot of light to the various satellite disks of the Earth. By letting either fork vibrate alone, the motion of its attached mirror will cause the spot to travel to and fro in a straight line on the screen. But on account of the persistence of vision, we see then an unbroken line of light. We now come to the important part of the demonstration. If the two forks with mirrors attached vibrate together, the spot of light then describes a curve, the form of which varies according to the rate of vibration. The continuous luminous curve is also created by a fast to and fro motion of the spot of light, like the straight line obtained previously by the vibration of one of the reflecting mirrors only. Under these conditions, the satellite disks of the Earth may result from similar circumstances, i.e. two successive reflections, the last one onto the vault of the sky, of a primary luminous projection, the motion being automatically created, as well as the curved line of the orbit, by the vibratory modes of the surfaces from which they are reflected, as per the demonstration. If we suppose the existence of slow vibrations, the retrogradation which corresponds to the to and fro motion of the spot of light, as reflected on the screen, would be obtained. But in the case of the sun and the moon, which do not retrograde, the vibrations of the reflecting surfaces would be fast in order to conform to that part of the experiment, where due to the persistence of vision created by the rapidity of the vibrations, a continuous curve is produced. It would thus appear that since the results obtained by Lissajous reproduce the characteristics displayed by the satellite disks of the Earth, as regards their origin and their motion, this explanation could be accepted. If experiments were carried out thereby ascertaining the suitable vibratory motions to be applied to the reflecting surfaces, it is probable that a complete reconstitution of the cosmic device could be effected. Before becoming aware of the Lissajous tests, which now seem conclusive, the author was of the opinion that the motion of the disk satellites of the Earth was due to a natural, although unexplainable, moving projection device, since the fast or slow, either direct or retrograde movements, as well as the period of immobility of the satellites, can all be reproduced by the mechanism of cinematography. As to the origin of the vibratory agents, the author's theory is that they result from a passage of the semi-annual and daily cosmic breath streams, of which they follow the increasing and decreasing phases. It is stated in the Hindu texts, to which reference has already been made, that the chariot of the sun becomes restless upon the arrival of dawn, signifying here the breath of day, which sets in motion, and this might indicate that the simultaneous vibrating of the two reflecting surfaces which determine the ascending and descending movement of the sun is produced and governed by the breath of day. In that case, there would be a new sun every morning, and this could perhaps explain the reason of its obvious weakness upon rising and setting. In the latter circumstance, the usual flickering which precedes the extinction of a light can readily be observed. The passage of the semi-annual increasing and decreasing summer and winter breath streams would also create in the reflecting surfaces correspondingly increasing and decreasing vibrations, affecting thus the yearly height of the sun. These hypotheses may only constitute an imperfect solution of the problem, but they may lead in the future, by means of suitable research and experiments, to a more concrete explanation. The origin and situation of the luminous projector centers would still have to be elucidated. Their size may be very small, but the projections would be greatly enlarged by the successive reflections, particularly the last one on the vault of the sky. These primary sources of light may be situated, as the ancients thought in the case of the sun, in an exterior universe communicating with the interior of the cavity which contains the Earth by means of openings, as early cosmogonies include many references to the existence of doors and windows in the vault of the sky. It is improbable that the exploration of sidereal space, as far as it can be carried, will ever permit to clear up the difficulty, or furnish information as to the situation of the vibrating surfaces from which the disks are reflected on the vault of the sky. It can also now be understood that, since they are reflections, the satellite disks of the Earth cannot, of their own, produce any sort of phenomenon, and if spots or shadows appear in their circumference, it is clear that these modifications occur in the first place either in the primary projector center, or on the reflecting surfaces, or perhaps on the vault of the sky, and that these modifications are reproduced eventually in the interior of the disks. Circular currents moving at unequal speeds at various latitudes have been observed in the sun, and as these appear to represent a rotary motion, it has been assumed that the latter rotates on its axis at a speed of 24 days in the region of its equator, and of 25 days in the case of its other latitudes. But it can be understood that these currents, or vortices, exist either in the primary projector center or in the reflecting surfaces, and that they are represented in the interior of the solar disk. Although these manifestations might also be due to the disk's motion on the reflecting convex walls of the sky. Some secondary satellites or moons are also said to have been discovered round the satellite disks of the Earth, but they can be assumed to be optical illusions, and that if they are not caused by a distortion of vision in the objective, they may result from a multiple refraction of the primary disk on the adjacent walls of the dome. It is necessary to recall what has previously been said concerning the short distance of the vault. Consequently, the luminous disks called planets, which move on the latter, are also less than 100 kilometers from the Earth. Chapter 6. On the action of the vault of heaven and on cosmic rays. It cannot be doubted that in virtue of its great mass and short distance from the Earth, the vault of heaven exercises a powerful influence not only on the Earth itself, but also on all it contains and everything living on its surface. The vault generates and discharges the energies which, under the name of cosmic waves, rays, or radiations, are day and night incessantly received from outer space. These waves are believed to emanate from the stars, although it has been observed that they also come from a direction where there are no stars at all, and this has given rise to the theory of the existence of invisible stars. But, necessarily, all radiations received from the exterior emanate from the vault of heaven. It may be thought that the latter, in a general way, acts on the climate and the temperature depending on its composition and distance. It may well be assumed that the very high temperatures of the equator are due to the fact that the vault is nearer the Earth in this part of the world. The influence of the vault is principally exercised through the medium of the satellite disks of the Earth moving on its surface, or by the particular action they exert on the latter. The disks stimulate and reveal its characteristics. We have seen, for instance, in this connection, that heat and light rays are developed by the vault under the sun. All the disks are conductors of the radiations which proceed from those parts of the vault which underlie the path of their orbit, and it may be understood that these radiations are not all of the same variety, nor do they have the same intensity, since the composition of the vault is likely to vary according to its height, and also that the nature, size, and speed of the disks are different. It is therefore due to this function of transmission of the radiations from the vault that the ancients had given the satellite disks of the Earth the name of interpreters. It is now possible to assume that life, with its phases of incarnation, birth, growth, decay, and death, results from cycles combining Earth energies and the cosmic forces which are received from the vault of the sky through the medium of the satellite disks of the Earth. Another important feature concerning the vault is the fact whereby, taking into consideration the metallic nature of its surface, it must possess a hypnotic non-vibratory influence, which, it may be expected, participates with the Earth energies and the cosmic forces in the phenomenon of life. It is also most probably this hypnotic action exerted on the Earth throughout the day by the vault, which induces sleep at night. Insomnia would, therefore, mainly result from an insufficient exposure of the body to its influence during the day. The dome of heaven must also constitute an important factor of physical and mental well-being, particularly when its presence is known and kept in mind. The author knows that healers transmit the vital energies it contains, and also, incidentally, that these operate through the correspondence existing between the shape of the body and the shape of the heavens. The heavens, and this word, has a single meaning, which is that of the material and radiating vault which encircles the Earth. It was therefore described as being the dwelling of the gods. In all early theologies, the vault itself, under the names of God the Father, Lord Almighty, was the supreme deity personified.